It's so fun.
It's the only one that I have heard any comment about.
Oh, Chris said he loved it.
We're still 69.
Yeah! Welcome to Still the 69 Subscriber Podcast. Don't you dare change it. We're your hosts, Mason, Dylan, Price, and Nathan, in that order. On today's show, we're talking about the Iron Claw, which...
Whoa! No, it's not like this. It's pretty much...
I thought it was at the beginning, he only did like three
Yeah, at the beginning, the old man
but then
did
everyone else did like the whole
thing.
Everybody
Later.
else is open-handed.
Yeah.
Later it came.
Yeah.
There's characters with names, and the names I'm going to forget, but I remember there's Kevin and Carrie, and then there's a Mike. Anyway, it's not the point. The story is about the Von Erich family, which is a royal family in the history of wrestling, and the tragic stories that behold the background of the whole family. That's the summarized version of it. Hijinks ensue, you know.
We're talking about also about like WWE style wrestling. So
Thank you.
To be clear,
NWA.
to be
Yeah,
at the time it was
No, but
I had to look up
NWCC,
what that was.
Yeah.
The NWA, because I know of a different NWA.
No, like I was
Yeah.
like making sure that everybody, like viewers, you don't care.
Yes.
You've already seen the movie, but that it's not like UFC wrestling
Yes.
or
Yes.
like Foxcatcher
Or high
wrestling,
school team
where it's
wrestling.
like
This
actual
really has-
wrestling.
this is covered-
Wrestling.
It's
This has covered
theatrical
all of the
wrestling.
bases now between Warrior, Foxcatcher, and now this. We've covered all the bases.
Yeah.
Never
on
back
this one.
down.
Never back down. Street
Thank you.
wrestling.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Underground wrestling.
Underground
Yeah.
street wrestling.
Kid
Yeah.
wrestling.
Now,
Hey!
if they can make like a movie about Kimbo Slice, then we can read.
There we go.
Like, with
God,
some
there we go.
yes.
boxing.
So,
Homeless wrestling.
the story largely, I'll kind of give this the quick little plot, and then we're
You
gonna.
just did.
Well, I know, but the story focuses on the brother Kevin, in the family, and it shows the family dynamic and explores that. Now, I'm gonna do a jarring switch really quick because there's one part that we absolutely need to address. I want to get it out of the way.
They're brothers.
Yes. The
all
last 5 to 10 minutes of this film. So this movie is very driven in a family model of a bunch of brothers and the dad and their ongoing relationship. Now, if you've been watching this podcast for even, I don't know, a couple videos, we go watch. We'll create a fake hyperlink here that'll take you to the Brothers review and our subsequent compilation of all the times we've referenced it.
There, or whatever.
It's not there. It's not there. Nathan didn't do it. But
Maybe wants an AI.
any mention of brothers will immediately get us going all like this. Hey, we're brothers, and dismissing all problems and whatever was being talked about is immediately gone. You know, thanks Brothers, the movie, for that.
Yeah.
And the last 10 minutes of this is effectively just that. As a scene, and it is great within context. If you're watching the movie, it does feel actually valid and earned.
I disagree.
Great, good, fine, whatever. I don't care. We're not about how you think about it just yet.
But you're saying it as a matter of fact.
No.
What are you trying to get at?
What I'm going to try to get at is that this will affect at least one person's score on this podcast. I won't say who. And
It's yours because you're making the point.
And I will also say. That's more of an us problem than the movie problem. In context, it makes complete sense. In our context, in our silly podcast, it was hard not to get taken out of the movie because it's like, oh fuck, it's the brothers.
It's the
scene.
brothers.
Like,
But the
Yeah.
reason we make fun of the "we're brothers" thing is the fact that it was such
am I
a
making fun of it?
it was such a
Same.
bad script writing procedure because
Yes.
it's the fact where it's like, hey, you had sex with I'm accusing you of having sex with my wife, and he's just like, we're brothers.
We're brothers.
So
And it
it's
was me.
basically them contriving conflict just for the sake of having conflict,
Yes.
and this movie doesn't have that. This movie's like, there's something going on with our family, like, we're trying, but it's not working, whatever it is.
So I'll ask.
There's a lot of obviously bad decisions.
Yes.
Oh, 100%.
100%. Well, this
Like,
is an
at the
unhealthy
end
of the
family.
day,
Yeah.
Like, it's
bad
not
decisions.
a curse. It's just that people make bad decisions.
Well,
Yeah.
bad decisions and family upraising. But I want to finish the brothers thought because I knew that was going to be at least a whole part of this review after seeing those like scenes and the theme of that. And I will say, here's the question really quick: which brothers scene actually was better? Brothers,
This
or
one. I don't care which
Iron
one
Claw
you pick.
brothers?
This one.
I'm a big
I'm
brother.
not sure what. Are
Obviously.
you talking about?
I don't
like,
understand.
the-
Is he talking about the
meeting?
heaven
So-
scene?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's a mix of the heaven scene in specific, but even then with the two kids at the end, the very very end of the film, is them being like, oh, well,
With the
I'm
playing
not a
football?
brother anymore. Yeah, because he says to his kids, he's like, I'm not a
you're
brother
right.
anymore.
It's Kevin's kids.
Kevin's
Yeah.
kids. He's with
I
them.
forgot about
and
that scene.
Spoiler,
I
he has
didn't give a shit
children.
about that.
Yeah, so he was like, oh yeah, well, I'm having a moment realizing
I
I'm
don't
not a
see
brother
where
anymore.
there's any problem with this. Like that.
I don't-
is like
I
the
don't
most
either.
impactful
There's
part
not.
of this movie.
Yeah,
Like,
I cried at
like,
that
why-
part.
That part's heavy, and that part's right.
Yeah, like what? Why are we?
The afterlife.
This is a terrible point, Dylan. You need to
Yeah, I
jump
don't know
off this
what-
train.
what did you think you were heading off here? I don't fucking understand at all.
I know.
Maybe I hedged my bets wrong, but I was
You
so
did.
I was so certain, bro. I was so certain. I watched this movie and I was like, and I won't like little spoiler. I was into it on the tail end of it. I'm not gonna say how I felt about the rest just yet, but I
We
was.
need to talk about the rest.
Yeah,
I
how
was
about we
into
talk
it.
about this movie instead of talking about the movie?
all right, fine. Let's get into the movie. So
Jesus.
the movie starts out with Kevin kind of being the main wrestler. Let's start. From
No,
there.
you need to start before that because it shows
Technically,
the dad.
his dad is.
Because the dad is a very central figure of this movie.
Yeah, he's objectively the main. I mean, he's the second main character
Yeah,
slash
I'd
antagonist of the film.
There
yeah.
is like a very strong dedication from his children to him that
That he
is not
cultivated.
Warships.
Yes.
yeah, like there's
Worships
a
him.
which you know makes sense from the perspective of like if you have a father who is like a very high profile character,
Sure.
like, I could see that being
Yeah.
a thing.
He's like I mean, he's not just local celebrity at that point. Like he's bigger than it's more
Yeah.
than just a town. It's the state.
Like, he got close to competing for the national heavyweight
right.
title.
I mean, he was a
He didn't do it.
very pronounced wrestler that felt like he got snubbed in a time where like the rising of wrestling when it was very regional based before WWE became the umbrella and brought
Yeah.
everybody all up. You know, there was a strong, crazy cult following with some stuff I really wish they'd carried more into, but not the point. You know, and we have the whole Texas representation really is the Von Erich family. Like, you talk to anybody historically who's wrestling geeks and nerds through and through, they would have said on it, come up, if you came from Texas, you were fucking Von Erich through and through. So this guy was a humongous deal. And you could tell he did well. He ran his own, he ran
his own org.
Yeah, he eventually
Yeah.
became the organization runner of the section on Texas. And he's very formative, very, in charge and stuff like that. However, he has an incredibly toxic way of parenting, where it was to the point where he...
Oh,
I-
are you gonna say the
I
dinner?
yeah,
table.
What he's just like, this is the order in which I like my kids,
He's like-
but know that these things can change.
Everything
Yes.
can change.
I love that scene for what it does for the rest of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think it's the perfect narrative setup for saying, like, oh, that's pretty gross. And then seeing it, like... I don't want to say normalized in the way that we're like still don't think it's ick, but
It's
just
normalized for that family.
But yes, we
It's
start to see how
normalized
that
for
idea
family,
exists
and
in
it's
that
like,
context.
It kind of like fades away to where it's like it's definitely
it's
probably
still
a
there.
core part of issues for them,
Yes.
but like there's still like the connection that the brothers themselves have to one another and how much like they all care about each other.
Yeah.
kind of supersedes like that sort of toxic stuff.
But
that's going on
but unfortunately,
inside.
they don't see their dad as like an antagonist. They just see it as
No,
like,
Yeah.
they don't see
Yeah.
the
like
problem.
we're
with
brothers.
this.
Like we're going to kind of compete with each other
We're-
in a good natured way. It's
Yeah.
not. But
I think that table does a great, and this is ironically a dinner table scene that isn't left with chaos and strife like we
Yeah, I was
normally
gonna
like.
say, if anything, I could have seen a little more out of it.
yeah, Mason's hunger and
which is
power.
why I like that line is because it's like they're cleaning up plates and it's just a one-off line that
Yeah.
the dad says. It's like, by the way, these are the rankings, and it's not like a zoom into
Like-
his face.
Right.
Mic drops.
They don't make it dramatic. It's
Yeah.
like this is just
yeah,
how it
and
is.
nobody seems that
No.
phased by
No.
it.
No, Michael,
No.
listen, you're kind of the shit of the family
Yeah.
right now, but like,
Michael-
maybe you'll have a
Michael,
chance.
you're at the bottom because you know in order it's probably Kevin, Carrie. No, I think it was
David was the next oldest.
David. Yeah. So
and then Carrie.
The
Yeah.
blonde one, right? Was David?
Yeah.
David was
There
the
were
one
two
blonde one who died
blondes,
with a stomach.
wasn't
Well, David was the one who could do the
Who
showmanship.
could do the mic.
Yeah.
Who could do
Yeah.
the mic, and then there was
Carrie
Michael,
was the Olympian. Michael
was the
the
musician.
musician.
And then
He was the youngest.
yeah, fun fact: there was also
Another one.
Another
We need
brother.
to get to that towards the
The
end.
trivia will come
Joe.
all in later.
Yeah.
Well,
Think.
Jack Jr.
But that's a huge one.
Jack Jr. and also
Jack
technically
Jr.'s the
kid.
what's
The oldest who ended up
Oh,
dying.
but there's actually another.
There's also
one.
a sixth brother that's not covered in the movie, but because they
Really?
couldn't get life rights for him, they just rolled his story into like one of the other brothers.
The director said, I guess we're doing this now, but
Yeah,
the director
yeah.
said that basically he was writing the script, and for years he included the other brother who's like around the same age as Kevin and everybody.
Yeah.
Huh.
Ballpark.
That's hard to.
But he
That's a
wound
big
up.
switch in
He
there,
actually wound up committing suicide as well.
Yes.
And he said that it just like wouldn't like be able to make it into the movie somehow. Like it wouldn't fit. Like he said, it was like too much like depression kind of thing, even though
Yeah.
it's really what happened. So
Yeah.
I just don't know how him as a director could be like, hey Kevin, like I'm sorry, I'm onto this really respectful movie about your family, but we're not going to include one of your brothers. Like
yeah.
Kind
God.
of some of the things I was reading about it though too felt as though that they were like Again, not only just from a theatrical and like writing perspective, the director also was facing kind of issues with some of that brother's family on life rights.
I didn't see anything about that.
Yeah, so
they didn't really want to.
They didn't. Yeah, because I don't know. I don't remember if it was like a recency thing or not. I just know that they were more like, we would rather not. And everybody else was kind of on board with it. Right,
I can understand that. I think long term, because as the movie was going on, I was like, it's fascinating that there is a family that is going to like have a movie that's just like about
airing
kind
all
of
of your
like,
dirty laundry.
well,
yeah.
I mean, you can say that, but it's also it's about like kind of a foundational period in like your family history. Like,
yes.
you know, it's like if you had like some important event that happened with like your great grandparents, and there's a movie about it,
right?
And you can watch that and be like, that's my family,
right?
It's
and
crazy.
Everybody is just in on it, and if they tweak any little, I mean, right? And there's obviously some.
So for that brother not to be included,
even at all, is a bit bizarre, right?
Like, I feel like long term, I would think that group in their family would maybe regret that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, as it stands anyway, like at the end of this movie, you're like, damn, that was all actually like real. Because
Yeah,
so you added just another one.
Unlike Inglourious Bastards, this all actually did happen.
Yeah, believe me, I had to double check.
Yeah.
No, but like, yeah, I mean, that would have just been another obituary that had to be included. And the pacing of this movie was very good with those moments where you're like, it's every like 24 minutes this is happening.
Yeah, every 24 minutes, like not after the cuff. It's like they give you, but here's what I liked about it, right? Like the first like 45 minutes to an hour really gives you the premise of like normal stuff, normalizing, letting not all the brothers necessarily get fully fleshed out,
but the time too thinking like, man, I know it's going to take a turn. I feel like that's the meat of this movie, and I'm really hoping that just doesn't happen because they all seem pretty nice.
They all seem very lovely and have a great time.
That party, oh my god, when Mike's up there and he's like, I just want this to stay the way forever.
Yeah, like when you're like
Tom Petty song.
Everybody's got death written on their forehead. Right?
You can see it's the Nickelback video where like
with their numbers on their heads.
I know what you're talking about.
Save me. You see the numbers.
Oh, they all appeared above their heads at that point.
Yeah.
Like, all right, it's not going.
I mean, for me at least, I found the movie from just the family dynamic very charming. Like I really liked my time with the brothers all cutting up. Like you could tell that the competitive stuff is there, but it never feels like it's like Game of Thrones, I'm going to betray you thing. They still have a deep like brotherly love.
Especially once Carrie gets there.
Yeah, Carrie gets there. They all like double down, and I love where the mom at the luncheon or whatever, like the little picnic thing, and the brother who's got a gig was like, oh, well, I want to go. And the brothers are just like, oh, we could take him. And mom said, I said no. And the next scene on a dot is them sneaking out. And I just kind of had this like playful, like, that's so genuinely like a
But
thing.
I loved how it was presented too, where they were talking about how like Mike's talented at his instruments.
Yes.
And then her mom was like, man, like I remember like when your dad was like very good at instruments too.
And they were like, what? You didn't even know? And he was just like, yeah, and I chose. And he's like, and I knew music wasn't going to get me anywhere, and I chose wrestling.
And then they had to argue that was like wrestling is like, oh, because he wanted to travel for the gig, they said no. And he's like, well, they travel for wrestling. And he's like, well, that's a job. And Mike's like, there's money here, I could do this. And then finally the parents are just, and it's like, I say no.
Yeah.
Like, it's just no.
Which, if you guys want to talk about like the dad, as much of a figure as he is in his, the mom might have been the absolute worst character in this movie.
When at the beginning, when like Kevin goes to the mom, it is like, hey, like Mike,
I really
is, like,
need to talk to you about
heavy.
something, and then the mom's like, "That's what your brothers are for. Get the fuck out." And he's like, "Listen, mom, like, please." Like, I need you to talk to Dad.
I don't know what mom was so busy with, because
she said, and I don't want to be late.
Yeah.
Because they were going to church.
I can tell you, I know people very much that are like this mom, that it's like, there's this, like, borderline abuse going on, and then they just withdraw into themselves.
But it's that neglectful abuse where it's like, I will take no responsibility because I was not there.
And they just withdraw
I guess some
into
people
themselves.
are like that, where they'll just
and
be
it's just
like,
like, nope, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. Like, just leave me alone. I'm trying to survive.
I just have a distinct feeling you would know people like. I'm not saying it's your family, but I'm saying that there's like distinctly people that I was like, I feel like you would know people who are like.
This is a very
much
rural.
like,
oh, it's a very southern
like
mentality.
This is a southern,
like farm kind of.
But also, it's of
and
that.
She's very religious too.
Right. It's of that rural, but still like affluent, right? Like not necessarily like financially.
It's a very nice house.
I mean, they're clearly doing well based on how it's doing.
Which massive farm, like
which you find out at the end of the movie, because Kevin's like, I never saw any of this money. money.
Right.
And then his dad's like, well, how do you think we got all this?
Right. And then it was just like, oh, so you've been skimping here and there. And then whenever I was running it, I had to run it fair. And then the business started tanking under. Yeah. But I will say this, and I know this is way more for me than anybody else. I really appreciate the wrestling aspects that they actually do cover. They show some like matches. They show like the brothers kind of coming in and out. And I really liked where Kevin became champ very early on. They made Kevin the local champion, the Texas champion, and you see him. And I love his answer to Lily James, who we're going to talk about just really quickly. She's more or less the same character from Baby Driver, but a little less eccentric and fun.
Yeah, like, same exact character.
But to be fair, the movie does not sit with her for too long. And I think they did a great job with her.
She's literally just there to be like, listen, we can be our own family.
Yes.
And just get out of wrestling.
And she's also there to be somebody who breaks the perspective of the family model that says,
that's not cool.
That's not all right. Your dad did this. Like, to be a critic in there.
But the whole time she's also just like,
complacent.
Supporting it.
Yeah.
Your family's great.
I mean, I think she's right for the most part. I think she's supportive and she loves the brothers. She sees that, like, that aspect, the core there is
whenever she says, I love your family, she is probably more or less like, talking about the
I
brothers.
love your brothers. Yeah. Your parents are a little but Kevin becomes Texas champ and he has this little talk with her and she's like, what do you want? He's like, I want to be world heavyweight champion. And she's just like, but isn't it fake? And I love the rebuttal
I
answer.
love that conversation. I did not understand it either.
Yes, but because that is for all of you, like anybody else.
Needed that conversation.
That is such. Yes, I cannot say how important that is.
It might have been a strength too because she didn't sit there and like badger him about it, right? Because for me, all in my head, I'm like, if it's fake. Why? Why is the dad like trying to pursue it for his son, knowing that it's scripted? Like they can do whatever they want, just depending on the moment and who's hot and who's not. Like, and that the entire movie, I'm like that.
But his description, I think, is exactly spot on for it in wrestling. Like there isn't earning it. There is a you have to not only be a good performer, you have to be hot on the mic. People have to like you. Mm-hmm. They have to do this, and as a long time wrestling,
you have to be
over
on Yeah, you have to be
all
a complete
fronts.
package.
Yeah,
like,
you do.
You have to be physically in shape, mentally sharp, charismatic. Like
it is not an easy thing.
Did anybody get a count on how many tighty whities were shown? How many scenes?
A perfect amount. This is built for the male gaze. Is what I would say.
It really was because he would be like getting out of bed in a slow manner just to slowly show his complete.
To be fair, if I'm Zach, first of all, also Zach Efron.
Why is he a heavyweight?
Bro,
he
is shredded in this movie.
No, he's not shredded. He is a unit.
He's built big.
What weight class is heavyweight?
Well, okay, but
heavyweight is what he would have been.
Race, the guy named Barry Race or whatever.
Harley Race.
Yeah. He had to fight him, and he had a beer belly. He probably had 45 plus pounds on Zach.
He clearly looked like he was much older.
And that's a heavyweight bout, too.
All right.
So
to be clear,
I need Dylan's.
In wrestling, you've got pretty much 3 tiers. You've got the lightweight division, which is a bunch of luchador 5'2",
smaller.
No,
acrobatics.
You're you got to think Rey Mysterio. Yes, people who are who are going to be doing crazy over the top stuff, but are typically smaller. These are your. Probably your 135 under guys, but they're shorter than that, right?
So I'm in that category.
You'd be in that. Yeah, this is a great example, right?
Kentucky.
All of us could be any we're with our muscle masses, us three, we're intercontinental people, right? We're in the middle.
Okay.
Everything else is
a heavyweight.
You could be
because in UFC there's
you could be 185 yoked, shredded, and that, or you could be 500 plus pounds. You're in the same tier.
That's what I didn't quite understand with this because they kept mentioning heavyweight this, and I was like, Ric Flair's not that big.
Yeah, right.
Kevin, I mean, he's big. He's a unit, but he's not the guy before him big.
Right.
Also, heavyweight just sounds cooler.
It does.
And world heavyweight
champion of the world.
It's the gravity of it.
No one wants to brag about being the lightweight champion of the world.
Right. And you have to remember, right? This is of a time where it's wrestling is not the full machine that it is now. So everything to make it sound as grand as it possibly can. Heavyweight champion. You hear that in boxing at that time in the 70s? That's a humongous deal.
You can't get the world champion without going to Japan.
Yes. And I think it's, just the amount of random wrestling info geeking I could do on this is just fun, but I'm not going to.
So we can definitely move on.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's a very cool thing that they established early on.
Yeah.
How the WWE, or the NWA, whatever it was at the time.
Right, NWA.
But before we get to the next section, I do want to mention that I like that they subtly showed that thing about being the complete package. that like Kevin is the best wrestler like in the ring, but David is the one who
had the mic
comes on the mic and is like getting everybody pumped up and is what like he's there to pump up the crowd and stuff, and that's what makes him successful.
They also show that in the whole thing where he's doing the pre-interview where he keeps messing it up.
The promo where he's trying to get it right and he's just like fucking it up, like.
And David's just like watching, eating snacks.
Yeah, which I also just love because I'm like. Yeah,
there's got to be a brother.
There's so much like fun like back scene stuff that you don't see. So a little bit behind the scenes stuff, I always like really enjoyed and seeing him be fuck like just I'm trying to get the promo right.
And the announcer guy's like, "Yeah, I'll run it again." And he says the exact same thing, the exact same way.
3 or 4 I think he gets it 4 times in before they cut it on the scene with it. But yeah, David finally, whenever he does start wrestling, like he's good. Like he's not great, but that just shows how much charisma will put you in wrestling terms over with everybody, right? So I think that's exactly spot on, you know. In that time, you start to see Kevin scale back a little bit because you know he's introduced with James.
You can tell that he's got a threat.
He's not the contender that he was placed, and mainly he's not his dad's number 1. And I'm sure off scenes you can just imagine he's like, you know, Kevin, you're down to number 2 because you couldn't spit it on the mic. David's on number 1 right now, and then Kerry fucking ripped for the Olympics.
U.S. Olympic
with Soviet Union
positioning, by the way, was like. The dad literally brought him in and was like, "Listen, Kerry, I know you got something else going on, but I really need you." And on a dime, he's like, "You know what, Dad? I got you. I've been waiting for you to ask me."
You're no longer an Olympian. You're a wrestler. And he's like, "Son of a bitch, I'm in."
Yeah, you got it.
But to be fair, the Olympics happen every 4 years?
4 years, but like it's the Olympics. You can't tell me that like faux wrestling is like a higher caliber.
But to that family,
true to this family,
maybe. It is.
But it's wild.
And he's being asked to like. Join his brothers doing something.
Also.
But if you remember from Foxcatcher, it really like showed that like you can be an Olympic athlete at this time, and win and do really well, but like
still not get anything.
You're not
it's not income. It's not like
it's prestigious, but it's there's no money.
And I think the other point though too, let's assume that Kerry in this movie's like I don't know 22, 23 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
He's
probably early 20s. 4 years is a big time for you to go to decline. Like even if you stay at your peak.
Well, and I mean it is interesting just thinking of like how many people were affected by that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like that was a
humongous deal for like the
Olympic
crew. Right.
To have that whole thing just shut off.
Yeah, because every other country like pulled out of the Olympics.
Because like you said, I mean, there's a lot of people that like that was their window.
Yeah.
And it just missed.
And they just were like,
that's how it still is nowadays. I mean, you got a lot of people that'll be.
That being said, there's a lot of repeat participants.
And if you're
people
really
that will, like,
good.
I mean, not even really like. You can, depending upon the field, you can be good for a very long time.
Oh, right. Depending on the sport.
Yeah. Like wrestling, I don't know. But
wrestling tends to, I mean, wrestling and Foxcatcher, less so. Wrestling in like this sense, they'll bring up people until they're almost dead. We just had Undertaker at WrestleMania recently.
Well,
really?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It was, and unironically, it was the best WrestleMania that I think has been on record.
He was big when I was young. It was like 30 years ago.
It was like cameo chokeslam, not necessarily full match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so big difference.
Did he break a hip?
Yeah, I mean he chokeslammed The Rock. What's not to love, you know?
But we also so let's get forward to the next section where you see the three brothers.
The tragedy starts.
David, Kevin, and Kerry. They're all fighting together. You get a cute montage.
Yeah, it's fine.
They're all doing really well, and then finally there's a scene where they're in the locker room, and the dad's like, David, you're the one who's going to get to compete for the heavyweight championship. You got to do a worldwide tour starting in Japan.
Yeah.
You got to do it for 6 months. And then the other brothers are like, dang, that kind of sucked. Well, Kevin can't handle it.
Yeah.
And Kerry's like, good job, man.
Michael turns to Kevin and he's like, don't look at your brother.
Yeah.
He said, look at me. And it's like, you really see it on full display again. Mm-hmm. And the movie, I think they did a great job with pacing like the dad moments, right?
Dude,
like,
the dad moments are nuts.
The ones where it was just totally chill, totally fine. Spike. Like, oh god, that's...
Well, even as soon as, like, David took the mic and, like, did his whole speech after Kevin won, like, the dad took over and said, yeah, and you're gonna see David, blah, 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 blah. And then Kevin was like, Dad doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, he doesn't make mistakes like that. Right.
And then the dad literally turns around the second later is like, is there a problem?
Right.
Like, the amount of fear that he probably puts into these kids.
Well, and just like while on stage, like in the middle of talking,
breaks character.
Like, here's them back there, and it's like, what?
Yeah, I'm kind of busy right now.
Did I
you guys want to talk to me?
Yeah, like...
Dude, nuts, dude. The dad is crazy, but he's good.
He's crazy, but it's an it's an engaging antagonist though. Like
it is,
and he's not over the top.
No,
he's really not.
He feels like a dad.
He's not somebody that you like outright hate. At
No,
any point, really.
Because
you can understand at the very end. There's maybe a good reason to be really mad at him.
Yes, by the very, very end on that one, it's like, especially as a husband, I'm just like, I cannot fathom having lost 3 children back to back. I mean, fairly quickly, back to back,
and being warned that something might happen.
Told twice over, in fact. Like,
it's like, could you not stop for a couple hours?
Couldn't. Yeah.
What the hell could you have been doing that would be more?
We're almost there. We're almost there.
Get back to David.
We gotta start talking about the brothers kind of going.
Yeah, we do.
Because that's pretty important. That's like the whole second half of the movie. So they have a lovely wedding scene in David's vomiting blood into the toilet. Relatable. You guys ever had an ulcer before?
No.
Oh, it's so good. It looked just like that.
Just keep going.
Not the point. Thanks. So he's sitting there. And then Kevin's like, you need to go to the hospital. And he's like, I mean, he kind of just brothers it out. He's like,
he does.
Nah, I don't need to go. Let's go out there and dance.
And probably
I just caught something the other night.
Probably my favorite line of the movie, too, is like, Kevin's like, no, seriously, dude, like, just go to the doctor. You need to slow it down a little bit.
Right.
Just take it easy. And he was like, Dad'll understand. And they both look at each other. And they laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
And they giggle to themselves. They're like, no.
Let's go out there and dance.
Let's go.
On this particular instance, I definitely give Kevin a pass, though, because think about it, you're just like having the best time, literally the best time of your life.
Yeah,
sure.
It's like you're going through like marrying your love, like it's a wedding, you're partying,
you're
having
found
a great time.
Your second favorite.
Shotgun wedding.
Yeah. You're not favorite anymore, so the pressure's off you a little bit more.
Honestly, he's like, I'm a little relieved to have a whole life outside of it.
But then he gets freaked out, like he's like, man, like I just need to go pee real quick, and then his brother's in there, and like he sees the blood, he's like, whoa, like this is a lot, like you need to go to the doctor, and then he's like, nah, we're good. And then it's like, okay.
I mean, but to be fair, you gotta remember, like, although we're looking at these actors, they're like all relatively in their 20s, and that's a very 20s thing to do, where it's just
that's true.
Well, we're invincible.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And then he dies.
The way he died was insane.
Yeah,
too.
like it's his intentions
intestines
rupture.
burst.
Yeah. I forget what the condition name is called. I saw it on the wiki.
Which it sounds like that probably would have come from one of those hard slams or something on the mat.
Yeah, it's a list of like a couple other things, but there was also just like the condition.
Similar to the next brother that eventually happens to
Carrie.
We need to. I mean, you need to talk about.
Michael gets in there.
After David dies, they still wrestle like Carrie, but they don't bring in. They don't bring in Michael.
No, because the dad has a little heart-to-heart with all 3 brothers, and they says, "Listen, Ric Flair is still on, but I need one of you two to take over." And he said, "I don't give a shit who it is. Let me flip a coin."
Yeah, well, he cared because Kevin was like, "I want to do it."
Kevin wanted to do it,
and Carrie, who had been back after the Olympics, was like, "I'll do it." And he's like, "I already said it." And he's like, "Well, I can't decide. Carrie's really hot. Kevin's good at it. I'll flip a coin."
Exactly.
And
which then proceeded to have Carrie move forward with it.
Carrie moves forward with it. And he does get the title.
And gets into drugs.
I will say this, though. Well, he's a little bit on drugs. He's on drugs at the party after the Olympian thing. You see him snorting some stuff there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I will say, one of the things that we haven't talked enough about on the technical side for the movie, just for a second, the cinematography in this is doing work.
It's pretty good. It's a lot like Rush. It has like the time piece.
It has
it's just
the period
70s,
piece aspects to it.
Early 80s.
But the one scene that I felt like very locked in on was, Carrie brings home the belt. He's like sitting there at night, and you can just feel the gravity that it's like, even we have accomplished everything we pretty much wanted to
with
in
the
this,
house.
But it doesn't matter because we lost our brother along the way.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in that dark room, and he's like, I'm gonna go take a ride to clear my head. And like the cinematography on the like bike scene.
But this is one I actually kind of say Kevin like messed up on.
Yeah.
Kevin definitely.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Carrie had obviously been drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can tell he's not in a good spot.
Man, it's so weird talking about this movie in a way, though, because it's like you are talking about real people and things that really happened.
Right.
It's about how the movie wants you to
I feel bad just being like, you shouldn't have...
I'm not going to say that Kevin's like a total... I'm not going to say he's like a total piece of shit, but I mean, based on what he grew up with, I think that he's not a particularly like emotionally deep IQ thinker. I mean, they've shown that with the relationship with his wife. and I think he's just
first meeting.
Yeah, you can tell he's just
my name.
Yeah, I really love that scene, by the way.
I took some of that scene to be that he was a little like rattled from because like one of his eyes all beat up and swollen and stuff. Like I would give him a little bit of a pass on that.
I think it's a little bit of both though too, right?
It's definitely meant to be that he's just like not
shy,
really.
or like,
I wouldn't even say shy. It's just like socially inept.
Yeah, that's true.
His whole life is focused on this. What does he have time to go?
And it takes a lot to realize like dating, acting, like how you're supposed to act. I mean, again, this is kind of, but Kelly watches it's called Love on the Spectrum.
Yeah,
and it's basically watching like people who are autistic
who
like dating.
Yeah,
and it highlights like so much you take for granted. Like the guy was like, oh yeah, like she said she just want to be friends, so like we're good. Everything's good, and then the counselor's like, no, like that's not what that means. And he's like, what?
Well, why wouldn't you just say missing social cues and nuance?
So I say that to mean like I think Kevin is just like he just can't pick up on those higher social cues.
I think he effectively comes off as somebody with autism in this film, but like I don't think it's so much it's autism. I think it's more so it's like his upbringing has kind of given him that same sense of like way of looking at things. He's a very literal black and white thinker. He's somebody who is like, here's the way. My dad has taught me this is the way. Why would I question it? You know, like he's not. He doesn't think too much further past that.
All right, so Carrie goes on a drive on his bike,
and then
nothing bad happens.
Yeah, that was a cool scene afterwards.
I think the reveal was good. Yeah,
the reveal was awesome. He goes into the kitchen and he's on crutches. You just think, oh, he probably got hurt. Yeah,
and then you see the amputee leg on it.
That was neat.
Yeah.
Which you think, oh, well, that's just the curse happening. Like, that's fine. And then, because at this point, they've only lost a brother. That's a lot, I know. But they've only lost a brother.
Yeah. Well, and another one before.
And we haven't mentioned
barely mentioned.
That was pretty young.
Yeah. He was the oldest brother. He does mention really quick this one in. Jack Jr., who was actually the first brother, he mentions very quickly, oh, my brother passed away, and I just remember one day he wasn't there to play anymore.
Yeah.
Which, also a great line. But, fun fact.
Yeah, having lost a kid that I played with at the same age. Like, that's kind of how you think about it.
As a kid,
it's like, where did they go? And they're like, oh, they're just not there anymore. Right.
That's how most people explain it to you.
Yeah. Super tragic, though. He's, like, Jack Jr. in real life, and technically in the movie, because it's based on real life, stepped on a puddle and was electrocuted and died whenever he was, like, 5 or 6.
Yeah, and that's where the curse started.
That sounds like some curse stuff.
Like, that's crazy.
Like, that is crazy.
Yes. Like, every death here is, like, pretty tragic.
So the thing is, like, going on to that, so now that Carrie's out, now Michael is becoming, listen, we need to put Michael into that ring.
We need to
finally.
put Michael in now.
We need to get in there with Kevin, have him train him, and, you know, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Which
we've only seen him as a musician. Like
never have we seen him be an athlete or
any interest in wrestling.
And he also has the build of a non-wrestler, which I can really appreciate.
Tall, Langley guy.
It's just I don't want to be here. Like, I gotta wear what? Like, all right. Anyways,
the older brother had been protecting him the whole time.
There's not like any muscle.
Yeah,
he's like tall and lanky.
So he's into some of these amateur bouts, these amateur, wrestling matches or whatever, and then all of a sudden, just randomly after having trained for a little while, he goes down.
He takes a drop kick and hits.
And you think it's like a dislocated shoulder, and he's really just selling it. Like I don't know.
Dang.
But dude, that was the crazy thing too. It's like now he's got toxic shock, and he's just got thrown into a coma.
His brain's fried after the coma and the fever for that long. Like you can tell he's just like very behind.
Yes.
For where he's not.
He's
the
just
same person.
delayed. Yeah. He's just everything that he says is.
Like it's like everything's in a very deep fog.
Yes. I started getting like emotional about this movie when they did the presser.
Yup.
The press conference
with Kevin and with Michael after he had his injury and like he's just trying to talk and like his eyes are blank.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how they got that look on him, but like
they did a great job.
It was amazing. Like he sold it. Like his brain's like not there.
And just from Kevin's point, he was like, "Listen, all of you guys know Michael's a fighter. We knew he would make it through this. We're just happy that he's back out here." And they're like, "Well, when are you gonna fight?
When's the next match?" And it's like you could tell Kevin wants to just be like, "No."
Yeah, just one of these real quick. But then Michael's like
"Why would anybody there should
been a bit
what the fuck do you mean?"
Yeah.
No. Well,
yeah.
But for Michael to answer and be like, "I'm gonna be back in the ring real soon." Like,
that was like 10 times faster than how he said it.
Yeah.
Which is like what got me.
Right. Yeah. No, that scene hurt. Like I was like, Fuck,
because
dude.
that's all he's known now.
Yeah.
Like, and
now he's defined
a lot of weight on his shoulders because he's just the next brother
he's carrying two brothers' weights now because Kevin was proven that he can't do it. Kevin's still like the foundation, but he will never be the house, like, and he knows this, quietly you can still hear like the dad probably saying behind the scenes, you got to work your way up now. Like Kevin's not going to do it. He's always going to be number 2. Like
this is going to sound kind of bad, but I really appreciate how little Michael actually had on screen
time as that
for a while
for that version of himself.
After that point, because
that's a good point.
You didn't need much out of him. That press conference did a lot.
They nailed the point home, and then they were like, time to write him out.
Yeah, there was a dinner table scene. And it was literally just...
Was that him trying to eat?
Yeah, it was him trying to eat.
He was really watching everyone else eat, really, and that was most of it.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was like that. It was like everybody really tense at the table.
Yup.
Yeah.
And then like the dog like moves really quick or something, and
the baby
cries,
starts to cry just a little.
And then it's like everybody's like shocked.
Right.
Because like nobody's saying anything.
And it's just like so wound up intense the whole time with
it was neat. The transition into him basically, leaving. I think he left a note.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wrote a little note where he was like, I forget exactly what it says. He's just like, I'm going to a better place or something like that. Sorry if this hurts anybody. I'm going to a better place.
Which they did him, I think, some of the most justice just because like they didn't really show anything. I mean, besides having a funeral.
You see his little like flashlight like going off into the woods with like a sleeping bag.
A sleeping bag, which is crazy.
He just ODs out on there for suicide there.
Yeah, you're assuming, you really. Well,
he took the pills beforehand.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and then he drank.
Yeah,
he was drinking with that.
I forgot about that.
That one was confirmed on the wiki. That's how he died.
Yeah.
Also on the family farm, which also at that point I'm moving. I just there's no way. Like
that's spookier than the Sinister House.
Truly.
It just got worse.
Yeah, we'll kind of wrap really quickly because we've been in it for a minute. Carrie dies next, and
but it does. I like how they show Carrie. I mean, I do want to talk about just a little bit. That he tries to wrestle with one leg.
Yeah, he gets the prop foot.
It's like it's pretty soon after Michael's funeral, and Carrie and Kevin are on the trampoline trying to fight and trying to figure it out.
It's the ring.
And Carrie's just like, oh, it is the ring. It's not a trampoline.
Yeah.
But like Carrie's like, fight me. And Kevin's like, what are you talking about? Like you have one leg, and then Carrie just like leaps at him and tries to attack him. And
it's
like,
the first.
What are you doing?
It's the first time you really see the brothers ever like truly at odds with each other. And,
like this isn't okay.
Yes, even Kevin and like I can't say like Kevin's like a brick, but I mean a little bit based on just how he's been raised. Even Kevin has a moment where he like, not only does he lash out, he kicks him down because that's just like that like machismo response. But he has that moment of like,
well, just
what
trying
the
to
fuck
make
are
it
we
clear
doing?
to him. It's like there's like obviously this isn't gonna work.
Right.
Like the most casual dismissal of you is going to.
It's not going to register to you. I need to like show you that this is not going to.
And before we get to the next big beat, I wanted to say that probably my second favorite scene of the movie, and I know it was used in like the ads and stuff. But my second favorite scene of this movie happens. I think it's after Michael's death, when like Michael's like dead, and then it just cuts to Kevin in the ring.
Yes.
And he's like on the ropes, and he's just like running back
bouncing
and forth,
and he's just running the ring.
It's like I just feel like that shows so much about his characters. Like he doesn't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to process it, but he's gonna take it out on himself in the ring.
He just
try to make himself better, try to be a better wrestler.
He starts taking bumps. He just keeps landing again and again.
And then throws himself down over and over.
Yeah.
God, it's so good.
Yeah.
Which, like, that was part of that earlier where, like, he actually hit the concrete real hard. And he
yeah.
told his dad, he was like, look, I was doing everything I could. I've just never hit
You were out there long, and he's like, I've never hit it that hard. And he's like, oh yeah.
On concrete.
We weren't even supposed to be out there. He threw out. But you, like, again, one thing I really actually love about this as a wrestling fan was, like, you go with what you're given.
Yeah.
Like in the wrestling, the show does not stop. Like you can't, even if it goes a little off script, like you improvise, right?
Yeah.
And that was especially back in the day when you had much less
structure.
Sure
now there's like safety procedures and like things
like,
you have to follow. I'm sure now.
It is scripted to a T. Like the action in specific is scripted to an absolute T. Like in nowadays stuff with like some little give and takes where it's like okay, there's always gonna be little slips and falls.
Sure.
Little moments like that, but for the most part, it's like very scripted and routine. So the idea that like back in the day, that it was like, oh, I'm gonna take you for a ride, boy, and he chucks him out of the ring, and he's just like, I've got to riff with it, like, and he's the champ. I've got to play him up because if he just flips him there, then it makes the champ feel frail and it ruins the whole relationship with the belt and the title. So I just thought that was like a great little unspoken scene about the wrestling culture in itself, where I was just like, oh, but the hits in this movie, man, like they don't try to make it like Never Back Down, where it's like
fun.
X-ray.
Yeah.
I was saying like they don't emphasize it like in Tom Hardy fighting
and
like,
Warrior. You feel it like through the screen.
Like they overemphasize it, but it's good. Like I loved it. Don't get me wrong, but this is like a more realistic like.
And it's on a mat that's bouncing back.
Yeah,
too. You know, like you actually feel like that.
The mat has shock absorbs in there, but that's some
You
mix.
say it's bouncing back. Apparently it's pretty fucking rough.
The mat's pretty rough. If you,
even that pop-up one that they had out in their yard, you could see there was hardly any spring underneath it. No. I mean, there was it was up on pedestals and stuff.
It's
but
it's almost like it's got just a little bit of give just to make it like sound.
It
loud.
gives, yes, it's the
noise.
It's more of
so
an amp
for that
than
it is to like actually
to cushion any blows. Yeah.
Yeah, like.
All right, let's fast forward and get to Carrie and Christmas.
So Carrie brings home a gun
and a girl
and a girl named Tanya.
Don't worry about
her. Might as well be a hooker. I don't know.
Anyways,
it might as well have been the girl that what's his name brought to the
the brothers guy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very similar.
Hey,
but something we didn't talk about is that like, or I fast forwarded through, is that like Carrie goes to fight in the NWO or something.
No, WCCW.
I don't know. He fights in some wrestling thing and becomes like a big deal.
Yeah.
Never explained, but I'm like
Carrie goes off in WCCW, which is like, you have NWA, which is strictly Texas, and then you have WCCW, which is like
you're getting on a technicality. I'm talking about him in a ring.
Yes.
Well,
so the point is, Carrie starts working his way up.
After this movie, it deliberately starts to pull away from showing you any actual wrestling anymore because
only on
that's
TV.
No longer the focus.
Only on TV they were showing some things.
By then we're starting to get into trademarks now. WWE's time where it's taking over stuff. So he starts working his way up in the mainstream. Yes. Before NWA gets absorbed.
So he was just big. He had done a lot. Yeah. Which is great.
He was over recently, and then he worked his way up to the big leagues, so to speak. Yeah.
But anyway, he comes home for Christmas, which is the important part.
Yes.
He's still fighting and like staying in the business.
Yeah.
Kevin is like contemplating selling
to get out.
and getting out. So they come into Christmas with all that, and then Carrie comes with this random woman and presents his dad with a gun.
And he has this very, I think he sells it on the I'm like deep in not only the user stuff, but like the work with it stuff. Because it's the first time we see him confrontational with their dad.
Yep.
Like,
the first time.
You're not going to use it, you're not going to do it, and he has a moment where it's like, you think there's going to actually be like a fight thrown, and then you could just feel like the energy waning the more
and the dad, he basically like softens him down a little bit because he's like, look, we'll shoot it tomorrow. What I want to know is, are you going to be the next champion of blah blah blah? And he like spins it back because he can see that Carrie is about to get
He's a little unhinged.
Yeah, he's about to get bad.
And apparently the dad has watched The Bear and has seen what he can do.
I guess. I don't know. I haven't seen
it. Chef!
Yeah. No, I do think it's like this crazy situation though too, because you got to think, here's a little miscontext if you're not a wrestling geek. The dad's watching WWE, right? You have to remember, the dad is like NWA first and foremost. Yeah. This is the premier place. Yeah. So for him to watch WWE,
he has crossed over just to see his son.
Yes, he's not only just watching it for his son, but that is a huge point of pride for him to be like proud of him to be working his way up in something, despite the fact that he knows that like frankly he's at ends with WWE. He'll play ball with it, but it's like resentfully because it's now the new big boss.
Yeah.
So I think that was like an important feature as like a wrestling geek to be like, yeah, this is how the Von Erichs gone in, but the dad wasn't stoked about WWE. He's like, I wanted NWA to be the home of wrestling.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's just anybody who's like grown up with that thing, you know.
It was 2020 and Skype being like getting lost over by Zoom. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
it was Skype fanatic trying to take on the world.
The CEO of Skype is watching Zoom because his son became a wrestler. You know, so it was like, fuck.
So anyway, trying to get it going. Carrie call later, like a day or two later, something like that, calls Kevin and is like, hey, like in almost a manic state. It's like, hey, like,
I'm not in a good way.
I am not doing well. This curse, like the curse is getting me. Like I need help. Like I'm not in a good way right now. And Kevin's like, tell me where you're at and I'll come get you, man. Like let me help you. And Carrie just hangs up on him. And so Kevin does great here.
Well,
he tries.
Also telling him like, I don't. It
he's like, I'm in a hotel in Dallas, but
no, it's like I feel like Kevin was telling him like, you know, where are you at? We'll see if we can find something.
He's asking all the right questions.
Reach you, or like go to the farm, that sort of thing. Like he's But he's not like, I don't think he ever said that he directly was going to go there to like.
I thought he did.
No,
at
one
end,
point he
right
says,
before...
"I'll come get you."
Yeah, and then that's when he hung up on.
Yeah, he hung up on.
Yeah, he's like, "Tell me where you're at. I'll come get you," and then that's when Carrie hangs up. Yeah.
Yeah, and then apparently we figure out that he goes to the farm.
Yeah.
And
because right after he calls,
and
Kevin calls his dad.
Kevin calls his dad and is like, "Hey, like, look, like, please watch over Carrie. Like, he called me in a really bad way. Like, just look out for him."
That along with the fact. And that conversation that he had with his dad on the phone, he was like, "Hey, Dad, listen, I'm really sorry to bother you. Like, I know it's early.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't even get to the good stuff first because that's still the relationship that he has with his father. Of like, man, I'm really hoping I'm not being a burden right now. Like,
But also his dad was just like, "Oh no, yeah." Well,
yeah, he's like, "I'm here with it." Yeah, but there's a history to say that it's like that probably hasn't always been the conversation.
I actually wrote that quote down.
Yeah.
Oh no, he says, "You guys figure it out."
Oh yeah,
he says, "You guys are brothers. You guys figure it out."
No, that's between you.
No,
you guys
you're right.
figure it out.
Yeah, I have like most of the quotes on here.
Right.
There was one that the dad said at some point. He was like, "You're almost 40 years old and you're broke. What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
To Kevin.
Also,
and I'm like, "What do you mean? What is wrong with you? You've grown."
Well, also he's been stealing Kevin's money the whole time.
That's
true. Whenever he talks about the finances,
that's what it was.
That's when he said like, "I was never making this much."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I looked at the books. I never made.
It's not that his dad was cooking the books with fake numbers. It's that there were real numbers in there. He was just not giving him all the money that he was due.
And then he was making him the victim of like, "What? You're 40 years old, dude. You've got a family. Like, what? How is that my problem?"
Just that,
like he said that to him.
It's about him mentality.
That was devious shit. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it is.
He is boomer. That's that's exactly what it is.
That's the fucking problem.
Right. So
Carrie offs himself with a gun.
So Kevin goes to visit the farm.
Yeah.
To see Dad and Carrie.
Car door ajar, literally on the tree, just fresh. And now
he heard the gunshot.
He heard the gunshot, but I don't remember in real life. I think that this may have been dramatized.
I'm sure that was dramatized.
I'm fairly certain that this was the one where it was like you hear him shoot himself by the tree, and he takes Carrie's body into the kitchen, and like puts it on the table. Right. And
fucking mom to see, bitch.
Yeah, and I won't lie, like the Carrie shooting himself part, like that wasn't what did me in. It was like Kevin kissing Carrie, like, and it was this very like sad, intimate brother kiss where I was like, oh, that one fucking breaks my heart.
Was that scene, like him bringing him inside is after his dad though, right?
Yeah.
He has
that big fight with
Carrie
his dad,
shoots
and then he
himself
brings his dad in.
because his dad is like, what was that?
Right.
And then
he's like, what you... Yeah, and he loses it for the first time on his dad that we see. It's like he just absolutely loses it. Brings the body into his, like, to the house, and almost probably for, like, his mom to be like, why didn't you guys do anything?
Well, I mean... you skipped over the fact that Kevin almost choked his dad to death.
Yeah, he almost.
It was like you did this. I told you to watch him.
Right.
And his dad said something back.
His dad said he called you, not me. Just completely deflecting every single thing that has ever come his way.
You can't put this on me. He called you.
Yeah, he said he called you. He didn't call me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it is wild. The dad is a fantastic character in this movie.
Yeah.
But what is wild to me is how many times Kevin just completely dismisses like any issues actually happening.
With
like
him.
Because even the wife at the time is like, look, come home. Like
Kevin is so broken by this tail end of this movie.
I don't think you would be if you lost 4 people and you just keep getting told just keep wrestling.
Absolutely valid, but like I just think we haven't touched like. And this is a quick one because I know we're already so deep into this, is that we have not talked at all. Like, he is first brother on, he's 1,000 yards staring a lot of this film.
And it only gets more thousands of yards.
And then there's that really good scene after one of the funerals where they're at the car, like the funeral procession.
Yes.
And his wife's like, I need you to like be here. I need you to be with us.
I've been trying to be patient, but I need you to be here.
And she tries giving their son to him, and he's like, he recoils.
He's like, I don't want to get him cursed. Like,
he just keeps mentioning the curse.
Yeah, like, and she's just like, you cannot be serious right now. But I
was
like,
he does need to have
change his last name.
Yeah, I mean, he says at birth, he's like, I want him to be an Atkinson, which is the family's original name before.
Yeah.
So I think like.
But you know what? This movie ends on a pretty weird, soft note because then the father, after that funeral, just comes into the dining room table where the deceased son was just laying there at some time, and he's like, "Hey, honey, What are you doing?
Oh, that's after. Yeah, Carrie's gone at that point. They did a funeral.
And then the mom's like, oh, I just took up painting again. And I swear to God, I thought he was gonna pull out a guitar and start playing it because he used to be a musician.
Right. You think he's just gonna devolve?
Dude, I hated that part.
I think you're supposed to.
You're supposed to.
I hated that part, and I didn't like the heaven scene either. But I didn't dislike the heaven scene nearly as much as I didn't like the painting scene.
But did you dislike it because of their actions, or you just didn't like the scene? Cause
right.
I didn't really like the heaven scene because I thought it was too on the nose.
It was too on the nose.
It was a little in the
But the painting was like, this is what these parents would be doing.
Right. This is them, and you can hate them, but that's exactly like who they are.
I don't know.
It is.
Yeah.
Like it's just that it's all about me mentality, and even for the mom to be like
it could have gone unnoticed. Like, it didn't have to be in the movie.
Right.
You could have told me that the parents died in that house. They never saw the daylight again. Like, they just, I don't know, stopped eating or something. And that would have been just fine. Like, I didn't need to see the mom being like, you know what? Maybe I do need to change my style after I've lost 4 sons.
How many kids can you lose and not
say something?
Fall apart.
Yeah.
She acted like she was about to after like number 2 or 3.
Because she had the third dress.
No, because of her dress.
It was just about the dress.
But even then, it's a reminder that it's still about her, right?
Yeah.
Like the death is like.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes, like, I unfortunately gave her the benefit of the doubt, and I thought she was deflecting onto the dress, which a lot of people do, where it's like they're upset about something,
but they're
like,
showing it something.
But they're showing it some way else. Where she's like, "I'm upset about my dress." It's like, no, it's not about the dress. Like,
I think it's both, though, right?
I think it really is about the dress with her, like Nathan said.
I think it's a mix of both. I think it is like it's the scene telling you that obviously she's dealing with a lot, but they're just not an emotion family. But it's also that the way that it would be prioritized would be, I can't see people see me in the same dress again.
Yeah,
because that's so much.
That would be catastrophic.
How would people think of me?
The thing about those that kind of narcissistic parent, they can seem like really great people and really charismatic and like really good when the things that they want are happening.
Sure,
yes,
but not.
Yep. And then that's why throughout this whole movie, the dad's just like, well, you kind of like him because he's like, in a lot of ways he's really good, but fundamentally he's really flawed and bad. It's because he's very likable in the times that things are going his way, and he wants to be likable. And
things were going his way 90% of this movie.
When these kids are growing up, if you stayed the night over there, you would think that their dad is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You would think
100%.
that he's super fucking rad.
Yep.
And then as you get older, if you ever had a moment where it was like, spare a penny for me, he would never give you even that.
Yeah.
It's that, like, dynamic between it.
But, so, we get to the end of the movie, finally. Kevin sells the ring.
Yeah.
He sells
NWA.
He sells the business to the new WWE, whatever they're going to be.
Yeah.
Basically, that's him cleansing himself of all of it, which I really like because he is so like broken because of what wrestling has done to their family, and like that's pretty much the curse, kind of. So he like kind of cleanses himself of the ring, like is able to get a house with his family because they desperately needed it. They had like 2 dogs, 2 kids, and like a
one-bedroom apartment. Yeah.
So they buy a good house, and then it ends on the scene with the 2 kids playing with him just watching them.
Yeah. And then it just pans out with the camera shot and all that stuff.
But one more note about, like, there's another line in this movie that is insane. So the dad evidently reached out to the buyer prior to him buying the ring.
And tried to intimidate him.
And the buyer's telling Kevin...
he tried to intimidate me out of the deal. Yeah.
I just want you to know your dad is a real hard bargain. He tried to get me out of this. And Kevin looks at me, he's like, sounds just like Dad.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Sounds like Dad.
Like, seems like something he'd do.
That's exactly. And he laughed about it again.
He's probably clenching all like 300 pounds of muscle.
I was gonna say he's heading to his house right after this. Like oh god. Just another like
one last little thing.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
The movie wraps. It goes in the credits, but it does show one real life picture of like Kevin's family and how he's continued to have children and grandchildren and all that.
Oh, don't you skip the best scene?
And I love. Hold on. That in the picture,
you are.
No, in the picture of the real life one, they yucked this fucking baby like 7 feet in the air.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I had it way higher than a baby should be. And I was just like, goddamn, I love it.
That's the 70s for you.
Yeah.
60s for you.
Yeah.
Y'all, I mean, you're talking past the best scene.
Go ahead and talk about the scene.
Yeah, I mean, you said that they were panning out. Like, no,
there's
a whole,
a
like
amazing scene.
Like, he is breaking down, crying, watching.
It's a great
his
scene.
Kids
Yeah.
play
Now,
together.
the sorrowful moment is that he's sitting there with the children, and he's just like
talking about how he's not a brother anymore.
Yeah,
and that is
fucking
heavy.
Hard.
That probably hits really hard, I'd imagine, for like you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I cried. I'm having a son.
Yeah.
I have all brothers, and I'm having a son.
Yeah. And I've got all brothers too.
Yeah, so it's just like
one
God.
brother, one sister, but yeah, that one brother though, yeah.
This was almost a Dear Zachary moment for me. Like I cried at this part, and I was like, wow, like I cannot believe that.
Hannah came in for like the last 20 minutes of this film and was like, why is this guy so emotional about this movie? And I'm like, bitch, you don't understand.
You missed all of this.
You missed all. Yeah. You don't know the ride I just went on with this family, all right?
You don't know what I've been through.
Yeah.
And then when the son was like, you can be our brother. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Broke.
Mason meanwhile, just like...
Mason's folding laundry, that's cool, man.
No, the thing is, I was paying so much attention to this. This thing had me captivated.
Yeah.
But for me, like...
Oh, God, Mason.
It was Kevin's character throughout this whole movie. He's finally trying to be a human being.
Yeah.
And now I'm supposed to reason with it, and like now I'm supposed to be like, oh,
Jesus,
no.
Mason. There's the signs when people say people are gonna say, "Did you see the
brother
signs?"
that has first and foremost always cared about his other brothers the entire time,
and he's seen every.
But he hasn't gone about it in a smart way, which I know
he's not a smart guy.
I know he isn't. That's true. I'm not saying he's the villain in this. I'm just saying.
Not. What? Was that even on the table?
Well, I thought you guys were attacking me for that next. No, I think he's fine. Like, I think he's a great dude. He's obviously the foundation.
Is this curse?
That's what I've always
like the curse.
Is this
a family curse?
Yeah, like I keep
here.
saying, when the news crew come up to us and like, did you see the signs? We're gonna say yes.
Yes. They were there all along.
Oh my God! No, the scene is great. It's beautiful. Kevin has a moment.
It's a nice
of being,
closer.
It's a
great
closer.
end cap.
Yeah, it's a great.
It's a bit too over the top in my opinion when it does the pan out and it's everybody playing. Like even the mom's like,
just so you know,
like,
as
throwing football.
soon
Yeah,
as the,
I didn't
like,
even really notice that.
Yeah,
she even throws a football and she's like,
yeah.
No,
like,
it's like
the
as
worst
soon
throw.
as like that last line drops, he gets up and he throws a touchdown pass to the sun.
Right.
Like it's very.
Because he's
that's
trying.
the thing is you don't want the kids to dwell.
You
on
can't
these
let
moments
them.
and
He doesn't
everything.
want him to soak in on it, right?
Yeah.
But at least he was like able to show it in the way that like his dad was just like sunglasses. Like during
That's
that
true.
scene,
It's that
sunglasses
perfect
off. I
development.
better not see a single tear.
Right.
He said, "I'm sorry,
Great
boys. I'm
point.
not supposed to cry." And then the boys are like,
for him to
Are you
just
kidding
be
me?
openly crying and for
Yeah.
them to comfort him and to say like, it's not. This isn't how this is supposed to work. It's very much his moment of saying like, I'm glad that you guys see this, but I'm the dad. Let me let's go back to having a happy childhood. Like this is me. This isn't you. So no, I think it's a lovely ending. And it's a great one. It does not overstay its welcome. It goes boom into that. It shows the picture of a baby getting fucking yucked.
It does.
Which is just the funniest. I cannot get over that one. Let's Fat and Perfectly Fit. We've been going on for too long. All right, Pat. Shape of the movie.
Yes, we
have. I know.
I'm gonna go fit. I don't know how. I don't know why. I think that this movie doesn't really stay on any particular topics too long. If anything, it kind of rushes through some things that I might think you might need to.
It clips out some things that it's just like that seemed like a major event that happened,
right.
and we're only seeing.
And
just
Carrie
like
just becoming an overnight since like in a way, because you like you said you only see it on the TV or something. So it's like I don't know. I'm not saying I wanted this movie any longer, but like it was pretty fit.
Yeah.
It was good.
It's fit and even more to the thin side, but that's the me that wants so much extra stuff from this movie. I could have had so much wrestling culture going into this on top. Like, I would have had a great time with it. But for runtime to content, very fit. Like I said, if anything, I wanted more from it, but I'm not gonna slight it.
I'm going one step further. I think it's thin. I love it when you get these like deep character studies. That's what I want in a long movie. Nathan is more on the side of like the epics, like Excalibur, Kingdom of Heaven, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. See, I'm on the opposite side. Like I like the smaller stories that
he wants a story bigger than
more.
life. You want a story of life,
and that's not a bad thing. It's just my kind of movie. It's like I like those small stories that are blown out, and I think that this one had so much more. I mean, we even just talked about a brother that's not even in this movie.
Yeah,
that seems like a huge deal that they left out.
I'll just chime in real quick and say that I say it's then, and it's because I really think every brother should have been included in this.
Yeah.
There was another brother.
I think that's huge.
Family rights are hard.
Like I get it, but I just feel like down the road that's something that they're gonna wish they might not have done.
And I know it would have made it more.
I think the dad is still alive.
It would have made the movie more depressing. It would have, but that's what this story is. It's telling this real story of this real family that really went through all this. Mm-hmm. Like I think it really needed to be in there, and I think that's a big chunk that's missing from this movie. So, I would have liked even more on this movie. And Zac Efron was amazing. We never said that.
He's so good.
He's so good in this movie.
Good.
Everything like
there wasn't any bad characters. Like
I didn't dislike I think. I mean, every character did what they were meant to do in this movie.
Yeah.
I wish the wife was someone else. I'm tired of seeing that girl in that same role.
Lily James.
Just.
Lily James. Leave Lily James out of this.
Like, they gave her a little bit of depth because, like, she is, like, in tune with the family a little bit.
Right.
Like, your dad is the one who's messing you all up, and she's not doing it in a vindictive way, mean way.
She's the only one that's making any sort, like, saying what we're all thinking.
Yeah.
To our main characters.
I feel like we've been on, like, not we. A couple of us have been on a kick lately of saying that female characters need to be cut from movies.
I said someone else. Unless he had a different lover, it still needs to be his wife.
All right,
character.
Listen, it was either going to be Lily James or Ana de Armas.
Oh, Ana de Armas.
And Ana de Armas is great. Don't get me wrong. Look at 2049.
Yeah, it would be weird. She'd need a southern accent.
Yeah. So, and Lily James does that naturally because Lily James is a Texas local. So, like...
Yeah,
she's actually from Texas, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I had no problem with her.
Yeah, Lily James was great. The only thing I could say about her is that they gave her a role that felt a more grounded, less charismatic version of what she did in Baby Driver, effectively. And they just dialed it back. But
so, scores with Nathan.
Scores.
I mean, I'm not really usually in for these kind of movies.
Yeah.
I was already basically right out of the gate just like, man, I'm gonna have to watch another one of these things. About wrestling.
Yep.
Never seen one of those.
Damn sportsman. Hey, we never covered professional WWE.
Oh, actually, all three of us should be going. Hey.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
we got it. I picked
two.
two. I picked Raging Bull.
Raging Bull. Freaking Foxcatcher.
Never back down.
Warrior. Never back down.
Never back down.
To be fair, Warrior never backed down to bangers. So
that's true.
It's been a lot. But this one is not really like, I mean, it's about wrestling, but it's more so about just like a family dynamic and the dynamic of a bunch of brothers that do a good job of showing that they care about each other. And also, I mean, it just hits really good emotional beats. It's so hard to like talk about this movie and critique things whenever you're talking about
a real family.
Just
really
take the movie.
Yeah.
Just take the movie.
It is a real movie. They might have dramatized some things.
I mean, I'm sure.
You have to go at it with the fact that they probably jazzed it up in some little areas.
Carrie didn't go from winning the world heavyweight
to immediately getting into an accident.
There was actually a 2-year difference.
Yeah, but they didn't want to sit there and do.
Yeah.
You have to.
I mean, it's you're turning real life into a movie, so
right.
It's going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still really good. It's pretty rough at the end. I probably landed at like an 8 with it.
Nice. This is right up my alley. I mean, this is Foxcatcher adjacent, which again, Foxcatcher is not like a 10 for me. Let's get that straight. I'm just saying, like, I'm the only one.
I can see it in a way.
Oh yeah. It's like 9 or 9.5 for me. I can't remember. But this is like Foxcatcher adjacent. Like it's even about brothers, so which is the same thing with Foxcatcher and Steve Carell.
Yeah.
But this one I thoroughly enjoyed. I was captivated the entire time. They towed that line of showing the brothers being affectionate so well. They could have went the room method where it showed them throwing football together, like, we're so close, we love each other, yeah. But
rah.
like how you said the party scene where like they're like, but the parents are like, no, you can't go out, and immediately cuts to them,
the window.
somebody falls off the roof and them pushing them away, and then at the actual party where they're acting like actual humans, where Mike's just playing his instrument and then like they're all getting drunk and partying and it doesn't feel forced. Like, that is really hard to do. That showing that chemistry without being over the top with it, which is something I am very hard-nosed on. I think they did great. All the performances were great. I hated the dad. I hated the mom. Loved all the brothers for what they were different. But then it didn't show them as purely Christian characters. Like, they are angelic characters is what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Like, they still, like, I pick you, Michael, to do this. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, they still, like, weren't the best. And Kevin made, obviously, bad decisions in this movie. And if he's, like, signed off on that, and, like, in real life, like, signed off on
Maybe
showing
that. Was his piece.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, that's rough. I could not imagine, like, making those bad choices and then it being memorialized in film for everybody to see.
For everyone to see forever.
Right, but like, coming to terms and saying, like,
it's an
learn from my mistakes.
It's an incredibly transparent movie that I wanted more of. So, it's a 9 for me. I want to almost go 9.5, but like, man,
but it's not Foxcatcher.
It's a tough watch,
Wait,
man.
What did you obviously this is better than Foxcatcher in your head, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen
seen it in a long time.
I haven't seen Foxcatcher since we first started.
Same. I couldn't imagine this movie not being better than Foxcatcher.
It might. I don't know. I'd have to rewatch it. My scores of like my 9's being different than 0.
If that Foxcatcher score's higher, bump it down, bump it down.
Maybe, but I've been wanting to watch this movie for a long time, and it met my expectations.
It's not even been out that long. What do you mean a long time?
2023? Yeah.
Ask Mason. I've been talking about watching this movie for a long time.
No, so like, it was during the whole Oscars season thing, which like, I don't know. Can I go ahead and go?
That another one of my movies. Oh, there was something else I was going to say, but I don't really remember anymore, so whatever.
So, this movie I had absolutely no intention of ever watching because I heard that it was a wrestling movie from months and months ago because it was an Oscar bait movie with Zac Efron and the guy from The Bear, which is like, whatever. I like The Bear. I like that show. Just like Nathan said, 10 minutes into this movie, they are theatrical wrestling, and I swear to you, I thought I was going to have the hardest 2 hours and 15 minutes of my life. I have no idea how long this movie was.
It's about 2:15.
It's like 2:15.
Yeah,
good
job.
So I swear, I was like, God damn it. And it's based in like the 70s and like 80s.
You had one foot out the door, ready to leave the other.
I was
having it in the 70s and the 80s got me at least slightly
there. Well, go on. Let me tell you what got me there. The soundtrack. This was a Q-Time soundtrack. It had all kinds of like Tom Petty. It had Sticks.
He had a note that said the Q-Time soundtrack is going hard. I meant to say something, but I'm like, I'm gonna let him elaborate on that.
Well, I didn't want to miss it.
That's good.
Q-Time is a pool alley.
Yeah, it's a pool hall here.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had a lot of fun with the soundtrack, I think, and that's of the time. Like, it's fine. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was much better than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. I liked disliking the dad most of this movie, or like at least saying, why is he like that? Like, I mean, he's a has-been, and he wants to make his sons that. I get that, but like, they're literally dying on his hands. It's just like in Remember Me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's
the same thing.
Kids.
Yeah, he didn't have enough kids.
He didn't have enough kids, right?
Yeah, he would have been the same way.
You could have got there if you just made a few more.
If he had one more that didn't get 9/11, it would all worked out for Pierce Brosnan's character.
He had 5 sons.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're on your way.
6 sons. Yeah. Never say never, Dad.
I don't know really what else to say other than like I just didn't like the mom character. I think that they might have portrayed her to a T. I don't know, but this movie I'm between an 8.5 and a 9 on it. I came out way more than I thought I was going to.
That lowered bar does a big thing for when you start really liking a movie, though, right?
That's true. And you really I don't know. Like I'll probably land at a 9. I think that this for it to have had all of these things that it was about. Brothers, like, I don't have any brothers, but it's a family thing. Well, I don't have that religious background of, like, so it's like, I'm trying to connect all these things, and I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it, but this movie did a very good job of all of the things it was tackling. I mean, to think that most of this was true, if not all of this was true, is insane to me. Anyone's going to have a Kevin type attitude by the second brother lost, like that 1,000-yard stare. So I'll just go with a 9. I think this movie is fantastic.
I think it'd be weird if I didn't. So
do it.
No. Just gotta bait everybody. This movie is fantastic. Over time, this could rise up on my ranks on it for sure. On just the first watch, though, there's so much to soak up and absorb, and especially, like I said, like and I don't expect you three to be on this, but again, as a lifelong wrestling fan, there's so much like extra stuff where I'm like, oh, I would have loved if they covered more of this, because there's just that's a rich time period of extra things, but not the movie. The movie, you know, I think that the only other things that are like passing things I just like want to mention was like the one scene where it's like the mom watching. It's like post the funeral from the first son, David. Yeah, David passes away first, and there's just one scene where she's at home, and it's just David's silhouette on the stairs, like it's like this transparent silhouette, and they don't say or do anything. It's just like him sitting there on the stairs, and they sit on it for like I don't know 4 or 5 seconds, and then the mom eventually kind of just turns around, and there's nobody there, and I'm just like, wow, that's just like one of these really powerful scenes that keeps on going. Like I said, the cinematography was a quiet killer in this movie for me. By the time Carrie's on the bike and it's showing the road going, and there's just something about it felt like I felt anxious on that, and I knew something was going to happen, but they don't even bother to show it. But then I love that though. I love the idea that this movie just does so much with making you feel the impact without having to go through like the horror of it all, right? Like without it having to be blood, guts, gore. Oh, you see him run like off the road.
They never show like around the tree.
Yeah,
like they make you concerned that they're getting too close to it,
right?
And they stop just shy.
This movie does a great job of letting your mind do it for you, and also it's incredibly respectful, because I think that's a hard thing to do with a real life family as well. Imagine if they showed they Hollywooded an accident for it. So I think it was incredibly respectful on top of covering such dark, heavy content. Across the board, this was something for me, and I knew to a degree kind of what this stuff with it. As a wrestling fan, you hear about the Von Erichs all this time, but you hear it's kind of like tabooed. It's like, oh yeah, they were really heavy and important, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So for this movie to come out and for me to like deep dive into it, I was like, fuck, man, it's like that's worse than I even thought. Anyways, before the freezer stuff starts getting any louder in the background, I'll give this movie a very solid 8.5. 8.5 tends to be my like sweet spot barrier for whenever I think it's gonna maybe creep up or down on it, and this movie could be creeping up to a 9 over time with it, but I'm gonna say 8.5 now. It's just to stay humble.
Stay humble.
Without further ado,
I don't care what.
No, we gotta put it on the. You don't want to have any extra.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, you go ahead and spin.
All right.
Ooh.
Nice.
Hey,
Good save.
What are you doing?
Keeping the handle on.
You're trying to control it.
No, I'm trying to keep the
yellow.
It looks yellow.
Yeah.
Better performance than Easy A, barely, by Peanut Butter.
We get to finish the movie finally.
Yeah, you all know what that is.
Can we go ahead and say it?
Yeah.
Pretty things.
Poor
things.
souls. Poor things. Poor things.
Yeah.
Poor things, right?
Yeah, Poor Things.
Poor Thing or Poor Things.
The Oscar award-winning recent Emma Stone movie.
Yeah.
Poor Things.
Yeah.
I keep thinking if it's Poor Things, Poor Souls.
I don't know much about it, but it seems like something up your alley.
You might have fun with it.
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu.
It's definitely on Hulu.
Easy on Hulu. You can pull it right on up, easy peasy. But anyway,
I've seen it so many times. I'm like, I want to watch this.
Yeah. Have you not watched it yet?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I watched 15 minutes.
I watched the whole thing. I literally watched the whole thing recently.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I watched it with Hannah, and we were both like, interesting. So,
Oscars is on this wheel so many times.
Yeah,
well, we did.
I don't know.
It just kind of worked out that way, but we also skipped over Oscar season, and we didn't do an Oscar watch, so that was just. I feel like that's the organic process of this coming together.
That wasn't an Oscar pick. I've been wanting to watch that for a while too, and again, Mason will attest to that as well.
Yeah. No, I've heard about Price saying like, "Oh, that movie looks really interesting."
Yeah, I even mentioned it to Dylan. He was like, "Just wait, just wait, you'll see."
We'll get time to it, but anyways.
Like then I picked it.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I was gonna put it on.
I thought you did.
But then after I saw that you put it on there, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna put on Iron Claw then, because I've been wanting to watch that one for a minute.
Good call.
So, yeah, I know. Anyways, let us know in the comments below what you think. Do you want to be a wrestler? Let us know.
Did you enjoy our longest podcast since
God, I know. You know what? Let me just say really quickly. Price has been
be as long as the movie.
I know. Yeah. Price has been saying for a long time. I wish we watch good movies again. It's been trash shitty.
I swear I was about to say like a couple weeks ago we had our lowest rated movies ever.
Yeah. And now we're coming up with definitely one of the higher rated ones we've ever had.
Top 5 at least.
Yeah.
If you like the content we're doing, let us know in the comments below what you think. Otherwise, make sure to give us a big fat thumbs up for that big Iron Claw. We didn't even Ric Flair one time. Champ.
You see this suit?
Yeah.
I don't know what he said.
That was a good sell. I'll wrestle you anytime. When can we go get some drinks?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Kevin going ham in
Bro,
that part. There's
such a
much to talk
testament to this
movie.
film that we could still keep going on, but we don't got the time, and that's the show, guys. Make sure to
We're
tune in
done.
next week for Poor Things. We'll see you then. Hit the bell. Don't subscribe, but don't unsubscribe. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Stay right where you are.
Right where you are.
We'll pin you where you are.
Yeah.
For that 3 count.
Now you may notice.
Why was it only a 3 count? Because there
It
was
was
like
always
a
been a
4.
10.
Yeah.
When you got
When you
ring
get
out.
pinned, it's a 3 count. When you go out of the ring, it's a 10 count.
Oh.
I actually do
Okay,
that.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.